Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode that's very exciting of our life. So, anyway, I have Lucky here in my lap. John is over there sleeping, and Maggie's rubbing because she's in heat. And
Maggie's
Socks,
about to get, is getting on people's nerves.
and Socks is over here sleeping with her mouth on. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about more about Okinawa. Yeah, I loved Okinawa. Okay. Do you know how loud a B-52 bomber is? Do you know how big a B-52 bomber is? They're big. What is it? 8 engines, I think, on one of those things? Jet engines. I think they have them two together, so they're like 2 pods on each wing, which would make 4 on each wing, 4 engines on each wing, I think. Anyway, so these things would take off from Kadena Air Base, which was north of where we lived. And I think they usually took off flying into the east, because you fly into the wind to produce more lift. And they would take this really sharp turn south and fly right over our house. The interesting thing is, for a while there was a schedule. Twice a day, the bombers took off to go and bomb Vietnam. Now, when we lived on Cleveland Court, which was the last house we lived in, it was the second house we lived in on a base. See, prior to moving on to Machinado military housing area, we never lived on a military base. We were always civilians, essentially. I mean, my father was military, but we never lived as military. We always lived, in Spain, in Germany. We were Spanish, we were German. Oh, in Germany, we were Spanish because most of our friends were from Spain. I spoke Spanish. I didn't speak English yet. I did learn a little bit of German, a little bit of Serbo-Croatian.
Which do you think was better, the public housing or the military housing?
Civilian housing by far.
More space and...
More space, and you don't have all the rules and regulations.
I just meant space-wise.
And like on Machinado housing area, every single house looked exactly the same. Well, there were like a handful of designs. But other than that, each design was exactly the same as the next. It was, you can imagine a little kid trying to figure out, well, all these houses look like mine. Which house do I go into? But anyway.
Wind up in the wrong house.
Yeah. Once when we went to, me and my dad went to, was it me and my dad or me and my dad and my mom? I think it was me and my dad. Went to the movie theater. I don't remember where. And I don't think it was Machinado. I think it was somewhere else. But I walked away from my dad, which at that age wasn't a good idea. And I walked up to this guy. His pants, it was like below his waist. His pants looked like my dad's pants. And I went to put my hand in his hand to hold his hand. And then I looked up and he looked down, and I'm like, oh no, who is this? Oh no. And I ran, I guess, and anyway, so the B-52s, now when they would fly over our house, mind you, Okinawa is, 31 or 32 miles tip to tip. So it's not a very big place. The widest point is 5 miles, the narrowest is 1 mile. And I don't know if they still have it. They used to have like a run every year from one end of the island to the other. And I was too young to participate in that. But I don't know if they even had it when I lived there. But these B-52s, they're loaded for bear. I mean, they are loaded for bear. And they are taking off from not too far away from where we lived. And they're flying over our house. Landing gear still down. You could see the pilot's head, or the pilot's helmet, his flight helmet, inside the cockpit. That's how low these things were. And I was outside playing with my sister and some of my friends. She was kind of young to have too many friends. My friends were her friends. And we had this tree between our house and the next house. And by the way, we had a poinsettia growing on the side of our house that was taller than our house. And we had banana trees at one point in one of our houses, I think off base. I was out there with my sister, and loud noises scared my sister to death. Mind you, they found her crawling on the streets of Seoul, and tanks rolling down the street, so noises bothered her, understandably. And I was out there with one of my friends, and my sister just started to scream. I mean, you've never heard such blood-curdling screaming before. And I didn't know what to do. I wanted to run in and get my parents, but I couldn't because she was holding onto my leg. So I tried to move her over to my friend's leg, thinking she wouldn't know. She wasn't that dumb. She knew what I was doing. And I went in and got one or both of my parents, our parents, and the situation was taken care of. I went to Kadena Riding Academy, where I learned how to ride horses. One thing I did, and I was told not to do it again, and I didn't, was I watched, Roy Rogers and Dale Evans and those kind of TV shows, along with, all the Japanese monster movies. I loved Ultraman. Ultraman and Speed Racer were like the greatest. And I watched Ultraman, I think both Ultraman and Speed Racer in both English and Japanese on the TV. Anyway, when I was at Kadena Riding Academy, I thought the way you stopped a horse was you pulled back on the reins. Not exactly, you pull, but you don't do like I was doing. Yanking way back, the horse turned around.
Like that.
No, the horse turned around to try and bite me, but thankfully I was too small for him to get his mouth up to my leg.
You probably made him mad as hell.
Yeah. So they explained to me how you stop a horse. You gently pull in on the reins. Now, once we moved to Texas, I rode horses a lot in the 70s.
So what do? Tug on the tail instead?
No, tug on the reins, but not like that. And I went to I took swimming lessons at Fort Buckner Open Officers Mess. I used to have a black mug. I think it was black and gold or black and I don't remember, but I lost.
I imagine horses are very sensitive about their tail. That's their flight water.
Yeah. And I took swimming lessons over there, and we went to the pool a lot. Of course, I don't know why. Even all the way through high school, I was scared to death of sharks in the swimming pool. I know it doesn't make any sense, but I was. Yet, on Okinawa, I swam in the China Sea and the Pacific Ocean. In Texas, I swam in the Gulf of Mexico. And this was not a concern to me. But whenever I got in the swimming pool, for some reason, I thought there were going to be sharks in there. Go figure.
Maybe you consider it like an aquarium or something at the zoo.
Maybe. There was Kadena Carnival. It was an air show and everything. And I wish I still had the certificates, but I don't. I have no idea how to get replacements for those things. They were pretty much just photocopied, but
or we couldn't even get them.
The Air Force and the Special Forces, First Special Forces Group their overseas headquarters was Okinawa. Yeah, I think it was 5th Group that was in Vietnam, so I don't understand why is First Group Asia specialty, yet First Group wasn't in Vietnam. I don't get that. I don't remember what specialty 5th Group is, which regional specialty it is. But anyway, you climb the jump tower, you put a parachute pack on you, clip you in, and down you go. Even the Boy Scouts, I was so intrigued by the Boy Scouts, all the cool stuff they did. I wanted to be a Boy Scout, but I was too young. I was Cub Scout age, but my parents didn't let me join the Cub Scouts. When we moved to Texas, I joined Weeblos, but anyway.
The what?
Weeblos, that's in between Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts.
See, I was never a Girl Scouts or anything like that, Brownies, Girl Scouts or anything like that. I guess my mother would have no part in it, she almost blew a gasket at the mention of the word.
And I was a Boy Scout for a while too. Not long, but anyway.
5 minutes?
Yeah, about that. And for those who know about officers, you understand that there are certain expectations of the entire family. That includes the children. So I had to learn how to bow. My sister learned how to curtsy. I had to take piano lessons. My father wasn't mean about it. I mean, it's like you go and you take it for a week or whatever, and if you don't like it, you don't have to do it anymore. But I still had to take piano lessons. I took karate, Shorin Ryu. We did it in the school gym. I remember somebody fell out of I guess some of the older kids climbed up into the ceiling area of the gym and fell. I think someone got killed.
What do they do? What?
In the ceiling of the gym, how high.
How did that happen? What class was it?
Oh no, they were just messing around.
Some idiots who.
Yeah. I was in a church play, and I still have the costume because it was at my mother's house, so it didn't get lost in the fire. I was one of the shepherds. It was like a Christmas pageant or an Easter pageant. I don't remember which. But let me see. My mother was a school nurse for a while. Our chaplain was Mr. Stanford, and he is buried in Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. I'm not sure where his wife is buried.
Is that an air base, Fort Sam Houston?
Army.
Army.
They actually, when they first started flying like World War I era biplanes, the quadrangle there at Fort Sam, that's where they would land them. And then they would do helicopters when they had massed helicopters. And then they built a new BAMC, Brooke Army Medical Center, and that's at another side of the base. So I don't know if they've done anything with the old BAMC or not. I know Spec Ops did a training mission there at the old BAMC once. Somebody leaked the information in San Antonio that they were going to do part of this thing on the east side, and then people found out what was going on, as it was going to be a live fire exercise. And people were like, no, we don't want our houses shot up. They do this all over the country. It's routine.
But people got upset, huh?
People found out. If people would not have found out, they would have found out after the fact, but they couldn't have done anything then. They would have found out after the fact, but they couldn't have done anything about it then. But so instead of doing what they were planning on doing, they did it over at BAMC in the building, live fire. Anyway, so Kadena Carnival, they had mongoose snake fights. I didn't enjoy those. I so wanted to climb into the F4, but the line for people to sit in the F4 was so long, I just wasn't willing to, stand there.
Was that overseas?
On Okinawa, yeah. And this was at Kadena Carnival, and then I did go into a transport aircraft. I don't remember which one it was. It was big. It had a spiral staircase going up to the cockpit. I think they could open the back or the back and the front. I don't remember. And they also had a place where they would show how they would get venom from snakes to make anti-venom. And sometimes the snake would get away from them and go. And once that happened, I went running.
I don't think the snakes appreciate this too much either.
No.
They're like, hey, leave me alone, you're harassing me.
Over at Suicide Cliffs, it's leveled, and I think the higher your rank, your military or social rank, the higher up you jump. which means you're more likely to be killed in the fall. And but when you drive there, because from what I remember, Suicide Cliffs was essentially a little island, and you had to go over this short bridge. And
What was the point of it?
was
Suicide Cliffs.
you commit suicide. It's more honorable to do that than to give yourself up to the enemy. There's
In
a
other words, they're crazy.
well, that's not what the Japanese felt. There was a ladder going from the top all the way down to the water, and halfway down was a little shack, a little wooden shack. I don't know who used it, what it was for. I think maybe once or twice I saw somebody coming or going from it. But I would walk down the steps going down to the beach on one of the areas, and if you go to the side, I never went in out of respect. I never went into the little caves because people had memorials for their family members that had jumped, and flowers, incense, and things like that. And I never, out of respect, I just didn't go in there. I just didn't think it would be right for me to do that. Anyway, I remember we would go like on Sunday drives, and we'd be going, I don't know if, I think it was to the north, but I could be wrong. And we would go by sugarcane fields. My dad would get out and take his pocket knife out and slice some sugarcane for us. We'd all chew on it. I enjoyed that. The water buffalo, I always had to watch out for those because they charge you. I don't know if I really said this yesterday. Okay, where we lived before we moved on base, on top of a hill. From that hill you look south and you see Machinato housing area. And between where we lived and Machinato housing area was like an Okinawan area where Okinawans lived, and then there was this big ditch, which I think used to be a river, with a walk bridge over it. And I wasn't supposed to be going down there, and I didn't. For some reason I was scared to death. Now, if you take Highway 1, what used to be Highway 1, going north from Naha, you pass the entrance to Machinato, and then there's a crossroads. Okay, I don't remember everything that was there. On the southwest side of that crossroads was the nursery school where I went, Machinato Nursery School where I went. On the southeast side was a pond, a cliff with a waterfall, and I thought the itsy bitsy spider lived up there. And I was like, why does he keep climbing up just to go down again? There's this pond there. And even at that young age, I thought, why so many boats in that pond? They would have fished all the fish out of there by now. Well, I didn't realize it until years later that there was a village over there. I knew about the village because I used to go there. But that's how people got to and from the village. That was the only way I know of people getting in and out of the village. There was no trail that I ever knew of going in there. Now, I would go down there, because we lived on top of the hill. Now, that village, from on top of the hill, you're looking to the China Sea, which is to the west, and before you get to the China Sea, now it's not that far away, maybe a mile at most, maybe not even that far. You go down the hill, and there's the village. And before you get to the village, over to, like, south of the village, just to the south side of the village, is an Okinawan school. I always envied the Okinawan and Japanese kids because they would carry these leather satchels to school with them, and I always wanted to do that. And I never did. But I used to go down to the village. I'd buy these hard candies that came in a tin. Oh, I loved those candies. I can't find them anywhere. I've only found them once in the United States, or twice. Once in Houston and Chinatown, and once in San Antonio at this little store the people who owned the store also ran the only good Japanese restaurant in San Antonio, Nikki's Tokyo Inn. Yes, sweetie.
Nothing. Just watching her.
And one of our babies is
Curled up,
yeah.
sleeping, and the other one starts sleeping.
And anyway, these were like, I think they may have been fruit flavored candies, sort of like Jolly Ranchers, I guess. But they came in a tin.
Asian candies.
Yeah, they came in a tin and they were like hard candies.
Oh, I know there's some that are like individually wrapped and they're like flower candies. They're like in pastel. The wrapping is like blue, yellow, pink, and I think lavender or green maybe. And but it's supposed to be like flowers. I don't know which. I found them at the Chinese stores.
And the tin kind of looked like a, what do they call those things you put booze in that you carry around? Flask. Kind of looked like a flask.
Maggie, get out of my way.
Maggie.
I'm gonna get tripped, man, and I'm really gonna be mad.
Anyway, so let's
Not
see.
Not very cooperative here.
So the way I would get into that village, by the way, is since there was no trail in there that I ever knew of, I would go through this forest of bamboo. I wasn't supposed to be going down there, by the way, but I would go anyway. And you're talking about walking through a forest of bamboo. My gosh. If you've never done that.
Very thick, huh?
Yeah, very thick, and it's all over the place. Snakes everywhere in Okinawa. I worked with this guy who had been in Special Forces. He said once they landed on Okinawa, just like overnight, and the next day they were jumping. He wouldn't tell me where they were. And he said, there's snakes coming out of everything they had. They were in midair, and the snakes coming out of everything.
Throw the snake out the plane window.
Yeah.
That'll give him a thrill.
Yeah.
Snake goes, ah!
And ticklebees. I love ticklebees. I have no idea what ticklebees are. Okay. But we would hold them in our hands, and they would fly around, and they would tickle. They look like bees.
Like a bumblebee tail?
I don't remember. They're like a honeybee or a bumblebee one. Not.
Well, bumblebees are kind of.
They're bigger. They're.
Dumb.
Yeah.
They're kind of like dull.
But and then once I got bit by a lizard. It's a small lizard. I forget what they're called. They're like native to Okinawa.
Let go.
They're like native to Okinawa, I think. And I got bit by one. It actually bit my finger and I bled. You know, some of the fondest memories are just walking on the beach with my dad, or walking through the bamboo, or going into that village. And it's not like there's anything spectacular, I guess you would say. It was just being there. You know, I just enjoyed being there. And anyway, I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.